Hey everybody, this is Melissa with Parents Against the Santa Susana Field Lab. I wanted to let you know what's going on real quick. The West Hills Neighborhood Council, and I live in West Hills, is going to take a vote tomorrow on whether or not they should send out this letter to the DTSC, the Department of Toxic Substance Control, and this letter says that they do not want the AOC cleanup. You might remember that 2010 agreement that said one of the worst nuclear accidents in America. The AOC said they had to clean it like it had never existed. So that means all the contamination that was coming down the hill wouldn't exist to come down and affect all the people who live in the surrounding communities. And you guys might remember the reason why I got involved in all this is because my daughter, Gracie, her incredibly rare leukemia, I believe, was caused by this site. And as we kept meeting more and more families, over 54 families, we realized that it's above the national average for pediatric cancers here. We know there's a 60% higher incidence rate for people living within 2 miles of the site. And so I'm not feeling super well today. We've got all the EPA reports, we've got all epidemiological reports. The facts are all there. It's very dangerous. But for probably selfish reasons, there are a few people on the neighborhood council who don't want that cleanup agreement to be honored, even though it was fought so hard to get that cleanup agreement. And it was drafted by a Nobel Peace Prize winner through the Stephen Cho, through the Department of Energy, to be one of the highest standard cleanups in America to help set the precedent. And Boeing, NASA, and the Department of Energy want nothing to do with it because it'll obviously cost them a lot of money to clean up their contamination on their property that happens to be affecting all the 500,000 people in the community surrounding it. So this letter is being proposed tomorrow. We need you to get onto Zoom, 4 p.m. I'll have the link, and to vote no. You do not. I do not want them to send this letter. I hope you do not want them to send this letter, but according to them, we do. It says here that they're going to take down 10 buildings, including the radioactive material handling facility at the SSFL. And remember, the Department of Energy and Jared and Governor Newsom, Cal EPA head Secretary Jared Blumenfeld made an agreement last week saying that they were going to demo 10 buildings on the site, even though that won't really take care of the contamination. The 10 buildings are like 0.001% of the contamination on site. There seems to be some good reasons to do it, maybe to just set the mood to get this cleanup going. But again, that's for the AOC cleanup, that 2010 agreement that said anything that was put there by the polluters also has to be taken out by the polluters. Now, Boeing didn't do all the pollution. Rocketdyne was their predecessor. Boeing bought out Rocketdyne, that property, and then they used it for almost the exact same thing. So they're just as obligated. They bought it knowing how contaminated it was. They continued the contamination, so they also have to clean it. They don't want to. But according to the few people on the West Hills Neighborhood Council, they're saying that most people in West Hills don't want that AOC cleanup. They're saying that it requires the 2010 AOC cleanup requires background or non-detect after considerable study of the consequences of a large excavation, truck traffic pollution, and the destruction of the environment. Numerous neighborhood councils and community members have voiced their opposition to this cleanup method. There's probably like 12 community members who voice this cleanup method. They're first of all, they're taking down 10 buildings right now. That the AOC guarantees that those 10 buildings, the material debris goes to a licensed low radioactive, a low rad waste facility. Without the AOC, the Department of Energy can do the same exact thing that Boeing did in 2013. They can send it wherever they want. They send it to metal recyclers. They sent radioactive building debris. They sent the concrete and they sent metal to recyclers for being put back out into the industrial building supply. They did that up at the Santa Susana Field Lab in 2013 because they weren't following the the AOC. They had to be sued to stop. So now I don't understand why anybody would want that to happen again. I don't know why you wouldn't want to have the AOC, which is the most protective and most thorough cleanup. Why would you fight for something less than that? Is confusing to me. They're saying that there is going to be a lot of truck pollution and destruction to the environment. Well, I suppose there could be some trucks going up and down the hills. That's true. Already there are trucks going up and down the hills. The reason why DTSC had these buildings removed was apparently they could be a danger of another Woolsey fire. They took them down to help lessen that risk. It's debatable if that would really lessen the risk when it's in a field of highly flammable vegetation, but that's the reason why they took it down. So there wouldn't be another Woolsey fire. And so now they're saying that the pollution from the trucks is more dangerous than another Woolsey fire. I think, that's what I'm inferring from this, and that they're saying that the destruction of the environment, but these are tin buildings. There's no environment there. They're empty warehouses essentially. So I don't really understand why you would say that. And they're saying there would be pollution. Again, airborne pollution, that's not true. That there's a lot of regulations that will make sure that this demolition of these tin buildings will be done in accordance on federal, state, and local ordinances that make sure there's no dust. So it's very confusing why that they would say a risk-based cleanup is safer, less disruptive, and has a shorter schedule for completion. Well, of course. If you're not going to remove any of the waste, the contamination, yeah, I guess that would be shorter than actually doing a good job. This risk-based cleanup they keep talking about means that Boeing wants to turn the 3,000 acre site into a park while leaving 80 to 100% of the contamination on site permanently. That's insane. Nobody's going to want to go to a site that has known, the EPA mapped it all out. They know where the contamination is. There's cesium, uranium, plutonium, tritium, there's TCE. Just name an insanely dangerous, carcinogenic, or toxic material, and it's up at the Santa Susana Field Lab right now in the soil where it can easily migrate into the community. But they're saying that it's safer to leave it there. That's what the risk-based cleanup is pretty much to leave almost all of it there. And they're saying it'll be less disruptive. Well, maybe less disruptive to the people who don't get cancer. My daughter had cancer twice, and saying it would be disruptive is an insult to what it has cost and to all the children who have died from cancer. We know many of them from this community. And so that's insulting to say that it's less disruptive to leave. It's just seems really tone deaf to me from this letter. And a shorter schedule for completion. Well, according to Cal EPA Secretary Jared Blumenfeld, they could clean the topsoil in 2 years if Department of Energy, NASA, and Boeing would just get the job done. If they would just say, oh yeah, we'll start doing it the right way. We'll start doing a thorough, safe, and smart cleanup instead of just trying to play games with the community and get out of the cleanup. It could take 2 years. That's not too bad. So it's just frustrating that they would pull this right now while they know we're all really crazy busy with the COVID crisis, that they didn't really make this public, that they intended to send this letter out until a couple of hours ago, even though the meeting is tomorrow. That doesn't give the public a lot of time to even know this is going to be sent out. And it's going to probably reflect this letter in 2017 that they sent out. Now, I was there for the voting of this letter. I believe this is the one I was there for. When I held up a picture of my daughter in the meeting, and I told them 54 other children have cancer. We're so above the national average for pediatric cancers. Why would you send a letter telling them that they did not want the AOC cleanup, which is this also letter in 2017, and they voted for it anyhow on behalf of the people of West Hills. And they didn't really do a good job of letting West Hills know this letter was going to happen. And they just went ahead and put out they put our name on their letter. And again, you know, Steve Randall and Alex Uzumek, you can see they're going to sign this from the West Hills Neighborhood Council, are also part of the leadership of a group called the CAG, who it's funded by the Department of Energy, which is one of the polluters on site. So if that doesn't show a major red flag conflict of interest, I don't know what does. I kind of feel like that's the only reason why anybody would say don't do the AOC, is if you were getting paid by one of the polluters. And I think that's what's happening here, to be really honest with you guys. And there's no way on earth I want them to send a letter saying that they're insinuating that the whole community members have voiced their opposition to the cleanup method. I think that's only like a handful of people who are on the neighborhood council. Those are the only people I've ever met who do not want the full AOC cleanup. Most people think it's really pretty obvious that, you know, why would we want a nuclear dump in our backyard? It just doesn't make sense. So anyhow, sorry, it's an 11-minute meeting. It's an 11-minute post for a very short meeting. I hope that was informative. I'll do a shorter one next. And congrats to you if you watched the whole thing. I'm impressed. 4 o'clock tomorrow, Saturday, the 30th? Yeah, the 30th at 4 p.m. I'll see you guys there. Bye.
When can I do media? When can I do media?
When your schoolwork